comments.
I know I haven't watched it. Yeah, you can come in. I just went live, but no one's here yet.
Hey, everybody.
So no, nobody's here. What's up, man?
Y'all good?
Yeah, I'm doing the live chat for The Last of Us.
Oh, okay.
I'll
Nice.
probably doing this for like an hour, and then I was gonna stop by and see what's up with you.
Okay. Yeah. Cool about it.
Chat it up about Aaron.
Yeah. Sad, man. I thought he would get one more year just to kind of.
It's on the last year's deal. It's hard to extend a guy after you
I
get
know.
blown out by 20,
I know.
but I was cool either way. But
Yeah. Sucks when you know the guy.
I know
Yeah.
I want it to work out, but
Yeah.
you know
I
it
hear you.
happens.
How was my man's birthday?
Whose birthday?
Was
Mine?
it?
Mine?
No, Jack's birthday was.
No, that's in December.
Oh, that's right. It was,
Yeah.
I was just partying and hanging out.
Yeah, we were just guys being dudes. All right, man, I'll swing by. All right, that was my buddy Devon. And of course, I go live and I got people stopping by, and then the cleaning crew is deciding to vacuum right outside the door. So this is it's a good time to be discussing stuff on YouTube. I don't think I've ever had a clean broadcast ever on
No, there's always something going on.
one of these, but and damn it, we're going against the Savannah Bananas, so that's not good. But I'm going to socialist out and make sure that like you can actually see what's going on here. Are you shitting me? All right. Text you about that, Dave. So this is Dave. Dave's a friend. Let me make sure that this thing is actually live because I usually go in the YouTube channel studio and not the StreamYard one. So we are here discussing The Last of Us. It was a video game and they made it into a television show. The television show ended last night. So there's that. And my internet is slow as anything. I need to get a new computer so bad. So bad. So that's it. Keep vacuuming. If I knew it was going to be this bad, Dave, I would have just done it myself.
Right.
I feel because I'm roping you into this. Believe it or not, it's still loading up. So there's that. But I'll get there eventually. So Dave, you as I said, well, first of all, welcome to the live stream. That's been a disaster so far. I'm Pat. I'm the voice that you hear on 99% of the recaps. And then that's Dave. Dave's just a friend, and he watches television, and that's cool.
Yep.
So
Also part of the Scene Invaders podcast.
You have anything else to add, Dave?
But I mean, I'm gonna pump the Scene Invaders podcast and all of our
Why are
stuff
you
on
muted?
YouTube.
Wait,
I'm
I can't
muted?
hear you.
You can't hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, that's a problem.
You should be able to hear me now.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah, you were muted. All right, Dave. You like stuff.
I like stuff.
Yeah, and you played The Last of Us video game.
Yeah, it was my my game of choice during the pandemic.
Do me a favor, just kill time for me while I social this out.
I mean, so we had the final episode last night. Viewing numbers stayed consistently up the whole time, even going against something like the Oscars, which you'd think would have some crossover, but I mean, people rightfully chose The Last of Us over the Oscars, which is
The Oscars
good.
suck. That's why.
The
Oscars are poop water.
I'm a huge fan of the game, and I think going through this process of watching it, I've been excited for certain moments to hit for people to see. Pat, you saw it ahead of everybody, and I think you probably had the same thing where you were waiting for certain episodes or parts to hit mainstream.
Yeah, I was fortunate to see it before pretty much everybody. I had it finished probably late February. I want to say I had it finished.
Mhm.
And I remember stopping by your office because for a little backstory, people that obviously don't know, me and Dave met playing hockey, and you still run a rink, and I play at that rink poorly. So
It's okay. I run it poorly.
I stopped by your office to chat about the game and was blown away by the show. For obvious reasons, I think at this point everybody kind of knows. And by the way, if anyone's here and wants to chat it up, go ahead, throw some questions. Shut that phone off. We don't need that. But yeah, look, the first episode I vividly remembered because I played the video game. I played a while ago when it first came out, and so that was very familiar to me. Everything was kind of normal with there, and I wasn't blown away by it, but it was good. Second episode, liked it a little bit better, started coming back a little bit. The third episode, that's where I felt like it really, really picked up. And even though the third episode was kind of self-sustained and didn't really advance your plot that much, and it's really made up by the writers because the video game kind of takes a different turn, absolutely loved it. And then from there, it just progressively got better and better and better. So first two episodes for me were good, and I was there for it, wrote me in, but it wasn't until episode 3 where I really was like, holy shit, this show is special.
Right. I mean, that third episode was one of the most divisive ones, but I also think such a masterpiece in television, where the game purists were like, well, why didn't you show this? And I mean, it became political and all that. But at the end of the day, it fed the story, and it fed the story that in a positive way.
Yeah, look, I knew it was going to offend some people, and some people weren't going to like it, and all of that crap. I mean, whatever. I'm not here to make this a political live chat because smash my thumbs down for that. But yeah, it's for me, it was just a storyline that I wasn't really expecting, and so for me, I had forgotten a lot of the video game. Like I basically just remembered episode 1. And then how it ended. Right. And everything in the middle, I was like, I don't remember any of this. So somewhat spoilers here for season 1. Please do not give spoilers for season 2 if you're in the chat. But for me, it was like, wow, this thing is really taking off. And I definitely did not remember episode 3 being in the video game. I was like, there's no way that a video game had two characters, two gay characters hooking up.
Yeah, they got away with it with like a little note.
So well done in episode 3 that I felt like, yes, it'll get review bombed by people and whatnot, but man, like that thing should win an Emmy. Like right there, that one episode is good enough to win awards.
Oh, agreed. Absolutely.
You're muted again. I don't know what happened. You're mute. What happened? Where'd you go?
Am I back now?
No, it's still not working.
All right, let's try this again. How did I become muted?
What's going on? I can't edit mic settings. Let me try that. Yeah, Dave,
how about now?
For whatever reason. I'll try. It's got to be on your end because I haven't done anything. So you're muted now.
How about now?
Still nothing. No. Oh, wait, there you go. There you go. Okay, it might have been on my end. Yeah, I think it was on my end, so I'm a jackass. This has been close to the worst live broadcast I think I've ever done, and I've done some doozies of live broadcasts that are brutal, and luckily, Dave, you're here for it. So, yeah, as I was saying, and you probably already said it, and I couldn't hear it, but I felt like that episode was good enough to win Emmys.
So I have to shout out because I'm getting text from my former hockey manager that it's you, not me.
No, it is. It was me. It was absolutely me. Take full responsibility for that. Got to do a better job. Got to put people in a position to win. We're going to go back, check the tape, and hopefully we'll game plan and come back stronger tomorrow.
So what's the best way to do this? Do we have questions, or do you want to go from beginning to end?
Well, so usually, and I'm putting it up on YouTube now, join us live. So usually the way that I do these is we kind of discuss it, and then if people have questions or comments, they kind of just throw them out live as is. and then we address some, and then that's about it. And hopefully people let ads run. Other than that, yeah, we'll probably go with, first of all, since you played the video game, so did I, but you're more familiar with it. What was your overall consensus of the series?
My overall consensus was, please understand, I really loved the show itself. It was rushed. I wanted to spend more time in this world. I wanted them to spend more time in the world. The obvious thing is you don't have as many interaction with the clickers and the runners and those types. So that was my one negative thing I would say is it felt rushed. When you're playing the game, it's from a different perspective, so a lot of these things hit harder. The giraffe scene in the game, in the finale, really hits hard for some strange reason. But I mean, it looked good. I was excited to see it, but it didn't hit me with the same feels as a couple of the other moments.
Okay, I wasn't expecting rushed, but once again, this is why we have a chat with two people and not one, because I didn't feel like it was rushed, but I'm not as, it's been a while since I played the game, as I said.
Right.
So looking at what I watched, a lot of it was just it was completely forgotten. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I'll point to is the entire storyline with Sam.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about, and I think it was you who actually reminded me of it, of the fact that like, oh, how did they do this in the game? And I'm thinking, oh, well, the writers took it in a different direction. That's how dumb and idiotic I am, and how bad my memory is. But I didn't think it was necessarily rushed. I thought that the pacing was great. Mm-hmm. But what you just said, though, about the clickers is something that I have seen. A lot of people wanted more clickers and bloaters and runners, or whatever they're called. Like, a lot of people were disappointed with the fact that we didn't get a lot of the zombies.
Yes.
And for a movie or for a game that's primarily you're running around trying to avoid these things, you get a TV show. There's not a ton of that. There's a little bit here and there, but that I actually thought that made the show stronger, because when I was pitching it to people, there were a lot of people that I would talk to that said, I'm not really into zombie stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't like The Walking Dead. I tried World War Z. Like, it's not my kind of thing. And how I would spin it to them is, look, this show is a zombie show, just like The Office is a show about a paper company. Like, it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper than that. Would I have liked them to get in some situations more? Yeah, sure. Did the bloater in I think it was episode 5, feel completely forced in there? Absolutely. Like, it felt like the writers were like, shit, we got to get this thing in here somehow. And we'll put it in there. And the fact that they only encountered one was a little off. But at the same time, I do think that do you agree this is probably the strongest adaptation from a video game to the screen, whether it be the silver screen or the whatever they call the television screen?
Oh, 100%.
What do they call television screens? It's the silver screen, and it's
the boxes that nobody watches anymore.
Yes. So you agree this is the best one?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, by far, it captures a lot and accentuates a lot. You brought up the Hank story, and okay, I'm just sorry. It looked like you froze there for a second.
I did. I'm enamored by your beauty.
Okay, gotcha. The Walt story. These guys made a brilliant choice to make him hearing impaired. I mean, that's not from the game. I mean, like, they took a great story in the game and just twisted it a little bit. And man, that character, it means so much more. And there's this whole extra side of it. So like, there's a lot of things that they were changing that I was all for.
I guess, another big change is they did add that character that was trying to kill, Walt them, and ultimately got just destroyed by, was it the child clicker? That was terrifying.
Yeah, that was shocking in a lot of ways. And once again, if anybody has comments or questions, throw them out there and we'll address it. Yeah, I think personally, one of the things that made this show so good is the fact that they didn't force you to have to watch zombies in a situation, because the video game is primarily you walking around, maneuvering this world, and getting into a lot of action. Like you're either shooting them or you're blowing them up or whatever, right? Like light them on fire. But I think so many adaptations of video games to movies or television have failed because they've done that. They've tried to force the video game upon you and force the action that you are used to playing. They force that on the screen, and it doesn't work. It doesn't translate. So I'm amazed that there are a lot of people that didn't like the lack of, or the lack of clickers and all that. It's like, well, yeah, but that kind of made it special because it wasn't nothing but zombie. If they were just encountering the zombies nonstop, it would have been like overkill. But it's a fine line, though, right? Like you have to have a fine line between the overkill that so many adaptations have fallen into with the pitfalls of this kind of thing, and then underselling it. And I can buy that they undersold it a little bit. Like they could have encountered a lot more than they did, but I personally was satisfied with how many they did encounter.
I 100% agree. I mean, I think in the game they use the fight mechanisms and the fighting as almost a way to raise the stakes for the feelings that Joel and Ellie are supposed to be feeling. We want Ellie to let down her guard. We want Joel to let down their guard because they're both so protective because of the tragedies in their past. I was really happy that they added the downloadable content story, which is basically the mall sequence.
Yeah, I've never played that. I remember talking to you at the rink about that, and I had no idea if that was in the video. I assume so because the one video game they have is her and Riley. So I figured that was in the video game, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice little bit of backstory, and I think one of the also great things of how I experienced this, which I don't think you had the ability because of how you consumed it, was there was a companion podcast released as soon as an episode dropped, as well as after each episode, the creators kind of talking about how they did the things they did and the choices that they made. And I think that kind of calmed me as a consumer of their story, of the changes. It made me feel a little better, the changes that they did make.
Okay, so what was the big change that they made from the video game to the show that you weren't a fan of?
I really liked the Bill story, which is episode 3, which is the bottle story.
Yeah.
However, what they did in the game, there's a direct interaction between Bill and Ellie that shows just how much of a pain in the ass she is and how fearless she is. And there's like they get into these conflicts, and it's basically, as the game is progressing, you just have Ellie and Bill just yapping at each other. And it just, she just doesn't take crap from anybody. And I think it really pushed her character in the game into the Ellie that we all know. There's a couple little things where I like the idea of the religious cult and the cult leader who is full of power. That's only a slight twist from the game, but again, it's more of a summary than a longer extension. That was a whole big longer sequence in the game.
Yeah, I thought that the cult leader, don't know who played him. I'm drawing a blank. One of those guys you recognize, but you don't really know his name. But I thought he was so good in that role. Like, so good in that role, man.
Yes.
And that whole episode, you saw how good of an actress Bella Ramsey is, because when she bludgeons him, and spoiler alerts for season 1, it's like, she walks out of there and she is just like, her childhood is gone.
That's a key thing. So in the game, she is hacking this guy to death, and it is Joel that grabs her and pulls her off, almost saving her from the moment. Whereas in the show, she hacks the guy to the point that she is done with it and walks out traumatized. And that's a big difference, where Joel didn't necessarily save her. She saved herself, and then Joel comes in to comfort her.
Yeah, you brought up the relationship of her and Nick Offerman's character. I forget his name.
Bill.
Bill, yeah. And how in the video game they kind of went at it, and I felt like they made up for that when Ellie first gets to Jackson and is snapping at literally everybody, and is just not having it. All she wants is her gun. And at that point, they had made it a long time. They made it all the way from Boston to Jackson, so it's one thing. But I thought they kind of made up for that a little bit. But the relationship between her and Pedro Pascal, I mean, my God, like, for everybody out there that thought that this dude was not going to be good in his role, yeah, you dropped the ball on that one. Like, he killed it. I thought he absolutely killed it as Joel. Does he look like Joel? No, not really. It's different. But I mean, the relationship that those two had, you're watching like an award-winning sequence, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it is a slow burn that there is a payoff to it. I mean, like, we're the whole thing is just building to that last episode and building to that moment on the hill of like, okay. Sorry, go ahead, Pat.
I didn't like it.
Place.
I didn't like it. So I got a text from a buddy that I work with named Connor, and he had just finished it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So he texted me and said, "Holy shit, The Last of Us finale." That was the text. And I of course said, "Hey, by the way, we're gonna chat about it. So like and subscribe, donate, buy merch, all that good stuff." So I told him, though, I didn't like the finale in the sense of I wanted it to end when he shot Marlene and said, "But you're going to come after her." And I thought if he shot her and it faded to black, that would have been perfect. And then season 2 picks up with them in the car. I didn't think we needed that now. I thought it would have been a more badass ending of Joel just like, I'm shooting you in the face, and we're leaving. And I know it would have diverted from the game a little bit. I get that. I just thought they kind of missed the mark with that, and I think it would have been a better setup for season 2. It picks up right away. Of like, literally, you could have just taken what we watched in season 2. Or I'm sorry, what we watched, the ending after he shot Marlene. That would have been the start of season 2, right. And then they go into Jackson and they do whatever. I don't know.
I would have been happy with your pitch. And I would have been happy if I saw it. And I wouldn't have complained about it. I was looking forward to today the debate because as a viewer, it does not hit as hard as a gamer. Because as a gamer, most games the storyline is just paint by numbers, and it's such a right turn, just such a out of nowhere thing that it hits a little harder in the game. I actually felt that when Pedro was talking, or when Joel's talking to Ellie at the end, he comes off a little bit like a little too bubbly of like, well, my daughter would really like you, and this would
Yeah.
be great. And he comes off almost a little annoying. But like I know where they were going. So I was talking back and forth earlier with someone. Do you believe she knows he's lying?
I don't. I don't think she knows. And if everybody's out there, you guys can chime in on the chat. I don't think she knows. I think she believes him. He looked her in the eye. He said, real quick, I swear. And
yeah,
it was like, all right. I mean, Ellie has not shown an attitude that is willing to hold back. She just hasn't. Like, she's not gonna keep quiet. If she thinks you're full of shit, she'll call you on it. So I think she completely bought his story. And I remember being torn with the ending of the game, and I'm sure people are going to be torn with the ending of the show. The show and the game, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because what the video game did, the writers of the game, and then the show as well, is like you see both sides of it. You completely understand why Marlene was doing what she's doing and why Joel did what he did. And they set you up for this situation where he's not willing to lose another daughter. They've spent months together, and he's not willing to hear whatever reasoning that Marlene is saying. And I loved it. Like, I love the fact that I was sitting there torn as I was playing the game and then obviously watching it years later. And I'm like, I still see both sides of this argument. Like, there is a cure, and you can easily find it. And Joel's like, yeah, but we're not doing it like that.
Like,
and
he's not right, but he's not wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Like, he's being incredibly selfish.
Right.
And he doesn't care. And I'd be hard pressed to say in that situation, I'm not doing the same damn thing. I'm not killing people because I'm not about that life, Dave. I'm just not. Bitch boy. But yeah, to have that situation play out, that was probably my favorite part of the video game is when he just is going through and trying to get her for the doctor to operate on her. I felt like the show did such a good job with that. Like, you just see this blank look in his face. Mm-hmm. And what I think they did so well is they kept talking about how Joel was a different person until he got to Boston. And they really hyped it up with Tommy's wife, whose name escapes me all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. But they kept hyping it up of Ellie, you don't know Joel. Like, he's done some things. He's done some bad things. Well, you saw the Joel that they were talking about in that scene. I mean, that doctor tries to make a case, and Joel's like, boom, like in the head. Doesn't even want to hear reasoning. Doesn't give him an option. It was like, I'm just ending your life. That was incredible television.
Yeah.
The last 25 minutes of this series was incredible. And I think the lead up to it of they planted all these little seeds and then you finally saw it come to fruition. Loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for season 2 because I know it will be 10 times as divisive. I'm
playing it, but I'm playing it about as fast as I'm slow is what I'm getting at. I'm very slow.
You'll have it done by the time everything's on HBO. So
yeah, it's taking me a little bit. So if anybody's out there that wants to chime in, just please let's keep spoilers for season 2 at a minimum because I haven't finished the game.
Well, I mean,
again, we don't know what they're going to do.
The Last of Us 1 is that ending, and I think that's a point where, like, if you have that in a different part of the game, a gamer will be like, "This sucks," and throw down the controller and quit. I will say in the second game, there's about 4 or 5 parts of the game that people just said, "This sucks," and I quit. And I hope they stick with it. The divisiveness of the show when we get to those points. I do have a question for you, Pat. When you played the game, were you a father at that point?
No.
So,
I'll tell you, like, becoming a dad, and I know a lot of people out there that are dads that know about that, but like, it really does change how you view movies, television, and now video games. Like, it just, you immediately put yourself in those situations. And it was something that, I don't know, 2013, I wasn't doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so was not a dad, but viewed the show differently being a dad.
So, like, were you like, beforehand? Well, he did the wrong thing. We could have saved the world, and now are you a little bit? Well, I could see how he would sacrifice the world for one.
No.
Okay.
When I played it way back when, in the glory days of my youth and my 20s, I could see both sides of it.
Okay.
I was still like, hey, he did the wrong thing. But then again, I went, okay, I can see where this guy's coming from. He's got a connection with her. Makes sense. Now, it's harder for me to justify the side that says to kill her.
Okay.
Because of being a father. I would say back when I played the video game, it was like 50-50. Now it's probably like 65-35. I don't know how I would act because, thankfully, haven't lost my child. But, I haven't. That's the whole point of the video game is like he loses his daughter.
Right.
And then he kind of gets a quasi replacement in this girl, and he's not going to lose her. So I don't to put myself in those shoes is really difficult to do. I don't know how I would act if I went through that loss, and
Right.
I love the fact that they traveled down the road of how he acted post Sarah. Because that I was like, that feels very real. The whole I couldn't go on without her. And to fill that void, he gets Ellie. It makes sense of why he did what he did. And I had no problems with him doing it, but it's also and I think he knows it's a very selfish thing to do.
Right.
Because deep down, he's not her father. But he made this connection with her, and they both, and I think that the speech in Jackson about everybody leaves me, I think that went such a long way with their relationship.
Yeah.
Where it made him realize you do care for this girl, whether you like it or not. You guys have a relationship now. You guys have fought and clawed your way to get here. That did a lot because, I think up until that point, Joel was like, well, this girl doesn't know about loss. I know about loss, but what does this girl know? And it's well, she knows a little bit, Joel. She's actually seen some shit. And I think that really, what's that?
She was still cargo at that point as
exactly. And it went from cargo to something completely different. So, I love what they did. There's not a lot of negative with this show.
Yeah.
I'd really be searching for negative other than the ending. And it was such a minute detail of me complaining about the ending. I was just screaming, end it now. And then, picked up in the car. But
I did a scene that I can't get out of my head is them and the Native American husband and wife.
Yeah.
It just makes me smile. You made them soup. That's still my favorite. It's arguably a meaningless thing, but that's my favorite. It's my favorite part of the whole show.
Well, and that's, I think, another example of what these writers did so well is they included bits of that. Did you need that? No, but it brought character to it, and it was able to at least put their little spin on it. And it also showed that, and I think that this happens with pretty much every zombie-ish thing. It's you have good guys, and then you have the bad guys. And the bad guys are horrendous and the worst and all of that. And the good guys, it's we're just trying to survive. And you forget about the people like the Native American couple who's yeah, we've been living here. Nothing's really changed for us. We go and hunt. We do our little thing.
Right.
There are people like that. And the Walking Dead fell into it, where it's every group that they encountered, it was the worst people in the world. Okay, there's going to be some of that for sure, but there's also going to be people that aren't that bad, and that people that just survived on the land just like they did. And I like the fact that, they encountered them and you never saw them again.
Right.
I was surprised when, and once again, I watched it not remembering a lot of the video game. I basically remembered the start and the end, and that was it. But I was really, really surprised when they got to Kansas City. They're going through that entire storyline, which I loved. Loved the Kansas City storyline. Thought they did really, really good job with that. And the character, and I'm forgetting her name, and I'm trying to look up because she's in Yellow Jackets. She really, really.
I was about to say, I want to say Meredith, but I'm probably getting it.
It's something like Meredith, like Lance something. Melanie Lansky. I really thought she was going to be in it longer.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that she wasn't, because I felt like, once again, being a dead horse here, but a lot of the pitfalls that shows like The Walking Dead have made is she would have hunted him down for the rest of the series. And it was like, okay, they encounter her, they're done. They encounter the cannibals for 2 episodes, they're done. It wasn't this Rick going up against the mayor or whatever the hell they call it, governor or whatever the hell that guy's name is. It wasn't a full season of we're dealing with this bad guy named Negan. And I like that because they got big actors to be in this show. I mean, Melanie Linsky is on Yellow Jackets, and her star has really risen this past 2 years or whatever. And when I saw her, I went, oh, she's going to be a pivotal part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Until she wasn't. And it was like, all right, this is cool. Like they're just one-offing them. But I like the fact that it wasn't like we had a sustained bad guy, if you will. And it was more of like one-offs, we're done, we can move on, because the zombie, and I keep harping on The Walking Dead because it's probably the most famous zombie show, but these shows, it's like you dipshits are focused for a whole season on battling with each other. And meanwhile, you realize like there are dead people walking towards you. Probably should focus on that and stop this like pissing contest. Zip up your fly. So they didn't do that. They didn't fall into that pitfall. Loved it. But the whole pacing of the show. I mean, the characters that they encountered and the difference, like you talked about, with you had the couple, then you had Melanie Linsky's character, who obviously was like on a warpath vendetta, and she got crap on Twitter from America's Next Top Model for not being like a badass. Yeah, exactly. You're rolling your eyes at that. Me too.
Yeah.
And it was like that's what made it cool, was the fact that she looks like a mom going to shop at Target. And got this mean streak.
Well, and the little characters that were Easter eggs, Kathleen's character that we were just talking about, Melanie, her right-hand man with the beard, who killed it. His name's Jeffrey Pierce. He's the original voice of Tommy in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You have, was it the right-hand man of the preacher that gets ultimately cleaved by Ellie, is the original voice of Joel.
Yeah, he's Joel.
What do you think of the addition of Ellie's birth, and played by the mom, Ashley Johnson, who is the voice of Ellie?
Dude, loved it. Could not love it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like the fact that they included the characters from the game, because I think it's so easy to go, oh, okay, just make this dude Joel. Like, he already played Joel. Make him Joel. Now, nothing against that guy, but Pedro Pascal as Joel was way better.
100%, yeah.
And, Ellie in the game looks exactly like formerly Ellen Page, now Elliot Page. I mean, she looked exactly like her. You can't make Elliot Page, that wouldn't work. And Bella Ramsey, I don't think looked anything like Ellie in the game, but
she is Ellie.
Like, she's Ellie now, like that's it's done. And to do those little nods to the video game and kind of show where you came from, loved it. the birthing scene, I mean, I think that it brought a lot of clarity to me. I mean, I didn't know how she got immune, and then suddenly it made sense.
Yep.
We do have a comment here, and I'll put it up from Jonathan. He said, "My favorite change from the game to the show was Henry's death, how it showed Ellie's reaction instead of Joel's. That sound Bella makes as Ellie when Henry shoots himself was haunting."
Oh,
So, as somebody who's played the game more recently than me, what did you think about that little subtle change?
I mean, I want to go back even a little further of when Ellie tries to cure him with her blood is something that's not in the game. The suicide absolutely in the game, in the thing, just hits so hard.
Like you see that, I don't know who that actor is. And all the acting in this was incredible. But you see the fear in his eyes of holy shit, what did I just do?
Right.
And he's not like Joel. We know it now, but Joel has been there before. Like, not to the point where he had to kill his daughter, but he had seen Sarah get shot and killed. And so he kind of knows what Sam is going through. And
the reason he's living, he is there to protect him. That's his reason for living. And now Sam's not there anymore.
yeah, like, dude, like just the look on his face of, oh my God, what did I do? Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was heavy, man. And I think the best part about that episode was it ended with them walking away. And I know it's such a stupid, subtle thing, but it was like the severity of the situation. They have to get out of there. They
Right.
can't dwell on this thing. They can't even cope with what they just watched. And it was a trend that really carried the characters throughout the show is you guys are living through, I mean, horrendously horrific situations, and you just have to keep moving.
Right.
Because if you sit there and you take time and dwell on some of these things, like you're not going to live very long. And I think a prime example of that is when Ellie survives the cannibal attack, and Joel tries his best to cheer her up. He tries,
Right.
but doesn't really work, and because her mind is elsewhere, and they got to keep moving. They got to get to Salt Lake City. So,
Yep. And I'll agree with Jonathan's second thing here. The story of Ish, which is basically when they're underground in Kansas City and everything's painted. It's a huge part of the game that can easily be passed by. It's kind of like you pick up these notes and read a little bit of a story of the story of Ish at the time. How they incorporated was really clever. The Dina character is, without a spoiler, from the second game. And that really, John, that made me light up too when I saw Dina.
Was that the comic book?
So Ish was in the game when you're going under the tunnels and they create this society. Ish was like the savior of this society that they raise kids underground, and somebody one day left the door open and then infected just destroyed everything.
Okay. Yeah, like that's a prime example of something that completely forgotten about. One of my favorite parts of the show that we haven't talked about yet, and I love when any apocalyptic zombie-ish thing does this, is they took you back to day one. And man, when episode 2 starts in Jakarta and they go through that whole thing and that doctor just says bomb, the way she says bomb, I mean, Jonathan talked about haunting. Holy God, dude. Like the look in her face. She wants to go home and die. Like she's like, I just want to go home and be with my loved ones before you bomb the hell out of this place.
Right.
And then they pick it up and it's like, well, they tried that. They literally took her advice. They tried it. They bombed these cities. Didn't really take. But the look in her face of, oh my God, like, you want to know what the cure is? Bomb the entire area.
Yeah, that was
a holy shit moment for me. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I briefly looked at Jonathan's comment. I'm like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, and what did you think about in episode 2? One of the more disgusting scenes I think I've ever witnessed. It was the makeout scene between the clicker and Tess.
So it's a change from the game where Fedra is chasing them, and basically Tess sacrifices herself for Fedra. But the creators basically said, like, no, Fedra's not going to be out there. That's where everything is going crazy. They're going to stay in the safety of their own lines and walls. I saw it as the Cordyceps taking over her and then her kind of allowing it. I'm okay with it. I allow it. You know, part of me did kind of cringe, but I think story-wise, I'm kind of okay with how they were explaining how the Cordyceps kind of move and are a network rather than, you know, individual beings.
Yeah, I did like that. I like the network of it, and you'd step on thing here, and it can feel it over there.
Right.
If once again, if anybody has any comments or questions, throw them out there. We'll be happy to talk about it. But I heard a interview or something where the writers basically said that if you kind of just stay still, they're not going to attack you. If you're willing to just let them do that, you're fine. Now, who in their right mind is letting any of those things do that to them? And I thought it was so important that, like, she knew if she resisted at all, they're dead. And the fact that she was willing to sit there and make out with one for all intents and purposes to try to, like, get the bomb off, that to me was like, you know, a gross scene. And the explanation for why they did that made a lot of sense after I read it, but I knew it was a change in the game. I also do like the fact that, yeah, like that kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the pitfalls of some of these shows. They would have just had Fedra do it.
Right.
And it's like so many of these movies and shows forget there's a bigger issue here at play. And yeah, of course, Fedra isn't going to be running around chasing 3 people loudly through a building when you've got clickers and runners and bloaters running around. Like, that's dumb. These guys want to survive just like everybody else.
Right.
And that little subtle change that you had a horde of zombies instead, we're all about it.
And that actress absolutely hit it out of the park too. Anna Torv. Is it Torv? I always butcher her last name, but she was briefly in Mindhunter and also in Fringe.
I saw her in Mindhunter first. That's where I recognize her. I never watched Fringe. But
was there anybody in the series more out of place than Big Head at the very beginning from Silicon Valley?
That, to me, I had no idea what you're talking about until you said Silicon Valley. So that, to me, was a prime example of how Hollywood works.
Or HBO works.
I wasn't going to go HBO, but you're right. Yeah, I wasn't going to go HBO, but you are right. But I was more referring to, like, hey, I love this video game. Just get me any part they have.
Right.
But you're right, because in HBO, if you're with HBO, you have a job for life. So all good there. But it didn't make a ton of sense, I guess, in the moment. But I love that they started out like that. Like, they laid the groundwork for this thing 60-something years before it happened. Like 40 years before it happened, because they kicked off in 2003. I loved it. Like, I love that they started off with that and not just a lazy Joel, Ellie. You know, that's, I mean, like, if they would have started off as just Joel and Sarah in the house and Tommy, like, that would have been fine. No problem. Sure. But they did the little subtle things to explain that, yes, this was thought of before. Yes, this is how it can happen. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are people that believe that this was possible.
Right.
I love that angle. I also loved how the show was shot in that first episode because it looked like the video game. Mm-hmm. Like, that jumped out to me. It was like the camera angles, the filters that they used, the camera lenses, like everything. It felt like the video game. And to take them into the day one, I mean, that was at least day one in Texas, and then the next episode you take it to day one, like D-Day in Jakarta, and then pick up again, episode 3 and do that. It's weird. Like they laid this groundwork, and it wasn't really until episode 4 where you actually got the Joel Ellie storyline that pushed through.
Yeah, the big kind of almost payoff.
Yeah, but I mean, they laid so much groundwork that it was totally worth it. And another angle that I loved with what this show did was, and it's like the little subtle things that you read about. You might have heard about it in this podcast you talked about, but they said that one of the things that kept Ellie and Joel and Tommy safe was they didn't eat cake. So if you remember in episode 1, it's like, I was making pancakes. There's no pancake mix.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, hey, did you get a birthday cake? No, I forgot. And the Jakarta thing happened at a grain factory.
Yep.
And that's how it spread, was the grain, and they didn't consume any of it, and that's why they were immune, basically.
Well, that's what you had. Joel, who said he was on Atkins, so he didn't eat the biscuits.
Yep.
You had it. He was supposed to get a birthday cake, and he forgot it, so they didn't eat cake. It was his birthday, so she was going to make pancakes. No pancake mix, so we had eggs and bacon. Yeah, it's just a nice little nod. I mean,
it's so subtle, but when you find out about it, like, I'm an idiot. Like, I didn't pick up on that, but when I read about it, I was like, oh shit, that's genius.
Yeah, you could tell that there was. So I always kind of compare things to what happened with Game of Thrones. You could tell at the beginning that people cared about it. People they cared about the world. They cared about the story. They cared about every aspect of it. And as it went, people just kind of cared a little less. And then you got the last season. This was just done meticulously by people that were fans of the writing, fans of the story, fans of the game, and wanted to tell a story in this world and expand on it. Like, even though I said earlier it's rushed, they really went through some real hard time just trying to explain everything to everybody and give a bigger picture than just the game.
Yeah, and if anybody has any comments, questions, throw them out in chat. We'll talk about it. Right now, 75% say that they loved it, and then 25% say that they thought it was meh. The good thing is no one thought they hated it. Like, I was on Facebook today, and somebody was like, it was mid, and it was a good 2 to 3 episodes. Okay, that's fine. I thought it's by far the best adaptation of a video game turned movie / television show I've ever seen. I thought they knocked it out of the park. I thought 8 episodes, they didn't have a hollow one in there. And I think that's something that a lot of shows struggle with, is having a strong 8. They had it. I said earlier, I'm looking for things to complain about with the show, and I just don't really have a lot to complain about because they did such a good job with it, whether you play the video game or not. And I think that's a sign of how well received this is you've got guys like you who played the video game recently. You loved it. Guys like me, I played the video game, forgot most of it. I loved it. And then you've got other people who didn't play the video game at all, like my buddy Connor, and he loved it. And it's, the connection between the characters, this was not at all a show about a zombie apocalypse. It was.
Well, the viewership shows that. We started at 4 million. They worked their way up to 8, and basically 8 is where we did, except for, Super Bowl, they kind of had everything. So they had the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is 11 million. But I mean,
let's not talk about the Super Bowl, Dave. Let's not discuss that. Okay, we don't talk about the Super Bowl here. You kick her off.
The last day of football.
Thank you. They blew a 10-point lead, Dave. A 10-point lead.
Hey, man.
Ow.
Listen.
Walking touchdowns.
Well, I mean, special teams, but I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Walking touchdowns, Dave.
I blame the field.
The tie shoe and barrel rolled in. Not the point. See, now you got me somewhere else. Now you got me somewhere else, Dave. And the whole reason I did this was to distract myself from the team getting gutted by free agency, and then here we are, Dave. Here we are. You had to bring it up. You know what? We'll go to Jonathan. He said, "Did you play the game or just watch the show?" Jonathan, I played the game back when it came out, long time ago. Forgot most of it. Basically, remember the start, remember the end. It's been so long that I didn't remember Bill, didn't remember Frank, didn't remember Henry, didn't remember Sam. Like, that was all new to me. And then people like Dave were like, "Yeah, dipshit. That was all in the game. It was covered." So,
well, listen to the Jonathans out there, or the people that just watch the series. Look up on YouTube, just like Last of Us Part 1, not Part 2, cutscenes, and go down a little bit of a YouTube hole of just the cutscenes from the game. Will show you some just really cool storytelling.
yeah, so you've got guys like OK, and put the little question mark. And he said, "I didn't play the video game," and he said, "I really felt the final episode." So it's the thing. It's the fact that you had both sides of this liking it. OK, and said, I really like the Joel Ellie characters. And I liked it, but I leaned to the mess side. Like, that's the thing. It's no one's saying that it's bad is the key here. Like, you've got people that are like meh, and then you've got us who are like, shit, loved it. Right. Now, I want to bring up this comment from Jonathan. He said, "My friend and his wife were really bummed because they thought it ended on a cliffhanger. Were shocked when I told them that's how the game ended." Yeah, that's how it. Like, I didn't think that was a cliffhanger. I thought
if they never proposed earlier, that's cliffhanger, and I would have loved that.
Exactly. So for people that are just joining now, what I proposed earlier, and these are heavy spoilers. So if you're not, I don't know, like let an ad run and then leave because I have bills to pay, and I'm not on this poll for free. But what I proposed earlier was. When Joel shoots Marlene, there you go. See, he bought a mug. You guys can buy mugs. We got T-shirts. We got hoodies. We got merch. God, and that mug looks so good, doesn't it? It just like the stuff tastes better out of the mug. It tastes so much better. Oh,
awesome.
Anyway, it tastes like 20-year-old Chef Boyardee. So what I proposed earlier was when Joel shoots Marlene. And he says, "You'll just come after her." Boom. And it fades to black. I was screaming, "End it."
Right.
And obviously it didn't end. They continued on just like the video game. They continued on and they showed you the talk that they had about swear to me and all that. But what I proposed was basically you take all of that and that's how season 2 starts. Because I thought that would have been fine. But, they went a different direction. It's cool. I don't hate it. I was begging them, just like that would have been the most badass ending is, yeah, you'll just come after her. Boom. But the writers didn't consult me. It hurts my feelings. I really thought we were friends. Tweeted them a few times and never got back, whatever. And by the way, we just broke the news to OKN because he says, "Oh, so that's how the game ended." So I just think, I don't think a lot of people realize that that is how it ended. It ended with, and personally, I remember playing the video game and being like, I'm fine with that.
Right.
I just assumed that they go off and they live their life in this little community that is self-running and self-sustained, and that was it. I was really surprised we ended up getting a second game out of it, which I'm making my way through now and trying to piecemeal together. So, okay, and asked, "Did Marlene die?" Oh yeah, yeah. Joel doesn't shoot and miss. Joel did not look for a flesh wound on that one.
No, nobody's coming after Ellie when Joel's done with them. Yeah,
Marlene is definitely dead. So if you guys have any questions out there, throw them out there. We'll be happy to answer them. But other than that, man, I think to possibly put a bow on this, unless we have some more questions. Incredible television, some of the best that HBO's done. I would say it's the best they've done in probably since Game of Thrones. I mean, House of the Dragon was really good.
Yes, yeah, I'll give you that.
Actually, you want to talk about a cliffhanger ending? House of the Dragon had that and then some. Holy shit, that was a great ending. But yes,
season 2. So they're already saying they're going to stick with the game for the most part. 2 seasons. They said there always going to be like more infected. So I mean, is it something you're excited for, Pat, or something you are concerned of?
No, I'm excited. I just need to actually hurry up and play the video game and finish it, But I'm definitely excited for it. I mean, what these guys have done is not easy. There have been so many failed attempts at trying to adapt video games to whether movies or TV. And some things have completely sucked, Assassin's Creed, not naming names. Oof. And other things have been okay, like Tomb Raider, the last one was okay. It really, Uncharted was okay. They're watchable, they're passable, but they're not incredible. They're not amazing, and this was. And I do worry that like the awards are gonna stiff them, because I tweeted it yesterday. My big problem with award, they're pretentious and snobby and gross. And you've got a movie like Batman that doesn't get nominated for just about anything because it's in a DCEU, when it's an incredible piece of filmmaking. And I worry that this will suffer from the fact that it's from a video game, because a bunch of old people are going to go, we don't get video games. This wasn't very good.
My biggest hope is that people don't spoil what's coming. And I think for the most part, the viewers did a great job of not spoiling themselves for this season. Like people that didn't know about it, they rode the roller coaster all the way through and didn't try and see what was coming next.
Yeah, my wife, I've been getting on her about like, you need to start watching the show. And she's like, I'll be all right. I'm like, I don't know if you're not gonna find out the ending. Like, we live in a day and age where that's really tough to do. But to your point, people have been really, really good about not ruining stuff and letting people enjoy this ride because it was so good. And it's a nice change for sure. Are you looking forward to season 2? You played both.
I'm more excited for season 2 than season 1 because playing the second game, I have never been challenged emotionally like that game challenged me, in terms of how I thought about just several topics. Like, the game challenges you by forcing you to progress in it. And I hope that it challenges the viewing public the same way.
Yeah, it's and once again, if anybody has any comments or anything, just throw them out there. It's funny you say that, because I remember being sold on the video game by a guy that I used to work with, and we were talking about how compelling some video games can be and how good they can be. The writing is just top notch. It's not just about smash and kill people. It's like, some of this writing in these things are really, really strong. And he brought up The Last of Us, and I hadn't played it yet. And he's like, dude, the ending of that game got me. He's like, that thing sat with me for weeks.
Yep.
And I went home and ended up buying it and playing it. And then I realized what he was talking about, and the ending, when the video game is the ending, what you got in the show. So if you know, but it was powerful. And there were a lot of moments that were just really, really hit home, and it was like an uncomfortable, but like a good uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah,
because you're watching incredible drama. So I can't wait for the ending. Now, OKN brings up something that we brought up a little bit earlier, and that's he feels like, or she feels like, Joel should have told Ellie the truth. And that's right up there, and there's another thing that shows so well. I'm sounding like a broken record. It's the moral dilemmas that these characters are facing. It's not just Ellie and Joel, right? It's a moral dilemma of like, go to the cannibals. The moral dilemma of, do we start eating people? It's not like David woke up and was like, you know what? I'm really hunkering for some thigh today.
Mm-hmm.
I really want some calf muscle. You know, Frank over there looks delicious. Like, no, it got to a point where there was a moral dilemma of what do I do? Do I lose these people or do I just keep a secret? And then you've got Joel with the moral dilemma of what do I do? Do I let this girl die and get a cure or do I save her and kill everybody in my path? And then you've got the moral dilemma that results in do I tell her the truth or is ignorance bliss? And that's one of the beautiful things about the show is the moral dilemmas most of the characters face, because I think, God forbid, we were put in a situation like this, there's going to be a shit ton of moral dilemmas just like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just going to be cut and dry A and B. And maybe Joel should have told her the truth. I don't know how she would have taken it. She very well might have been livid at him, but I side with what he did about ignorance is bliss. And is it really going to help her out to know that she could have had a cure and she could have been the cure, but he took that away from her? It goes back to what Marlene said, like, why are you making this choice for her?
Right.
And Joel shot back, well, then, you shouldn't be making a choice for either. And he's right. Ultimately, they didn't give Ellie the choice. And what we've seen from Ellie at this point is that she's a lot older than 13. She's seen some shit. She's lived a life. She's got opinions. But do you want a 13-year-old making that ultimate opinion? Do you want a 13-year-old making that choice? And I think that's where Joel's parenting ended up jumping in of like, I'm just going to lie to her and she's never going to know.
Well, as Ellie's mom told her as soon as she was born and she was kicking and fussing and screaming at the world is, yeah, Ellie, you go get them.
Yeah, it's and that scene, man, that was just like, I can't stress it enough. They put so many scenes in there that added so much value to the show and added so much, like, they added so many layers to it that they weren't going to include in the video game because it didn't make sense.
Right.
But it makes sense in the show. Did they ever, in the first or second one, I mean, I obviously played the first one, but forget 90% of it. Did they ever cover how Ellie was immune?
So the creator talked about it with the showrunner for this, the guy that did Chernobyl, is they had actually tried to storyline out the where she got everything in the a downloadable content that just didn't work. And he had talked about like the birth scene and Ellie's mom and using her in almost like a short story where they were going to almost shoot it live action. And it just kind of, went through development hell. I mean, they've been trying to do this story for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And he talked about like when they initially sat down, Neil Druckmann, the creator and the showrunner, and the showrunner's like, tell me more. Give me more of this lore. I've played the games. I've read everything. What don't I know? And this is one of the things that the game creator brought up to him.
Love it. Let me ask you before I let you go do whatever you do. You're like running a rink or something. There's probably some hockey in it. It was supposed to start 7 minutes ago, and the guy just started a 5-minute clock.
There's a men's league team standing outside shooting daggers through my fishbowl.
Are they? Why?
No, there's nobody there.
Oh, okay. Because usually that person's me. Anyway, another game that's very similar to this, not as good but similar, is Days Gone.
Okay.
Have you played Days Gone?
I have not.
Dude,
writing it on my sketch pad.
Days Gone is for a blast. Like, so much fun, but also in the same realm of like there's an apocalyptic event, there's whole zombies running around. It's very similar to The Last of Us. But the storyline of Days Gone is really, really good too. And I was going to ask you if you think that they should adapt that, and will they adapt that now with the success of The Last of Us, or will it be, kind of like Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down, where it's like, all right, we're not going to do that because they already called dibs on it.
So that would be, it's funny how you just said that. To me, that's the Gerard Butler version of The Last of Us, of it's basically two biker brothers during an outbreak or something.
Kind of, yeah.
It's a more adult version, I guess, with for lack of knowing anything. But yeah, to me, that would star Gerard Butler, and it would be on AMC.
Gerard Butler would be insanely good in the casting for that too. I was gonna say Showtime. Showtime buys it and develops it, and then Jonathan agrees that the hordes and Days Gone are insane. It's a great. That game is so much fun because you can literally play a mode where you're just getting chased by hordes of these things, and you just got to see how long you can survive. It's so much fun. If you haven't played Days Gone, go buy it. It's a blast. I actually might have it, so I'll check if I have it. If I do,
I think it's free on PlayStation.
What's that?
I think it's free on PlayStation if you have the PlayStation Network.
Okay, I might. I just bought it. I bought it when it came out. So I had to. This is what I did. I got. I think I got NBA 2K at work for free, and I went to GameStop and was like, "Hey, I got this for my birthday, but I already have it. Can I trade it in for Days Gone?" And it was closed, like it was wrapped up and sealed and everything. And they gave me the hardest time about it.
Right.
And I ended up calling up it actually would have been Dan, a mutual friend of ours, Dan. I think I called him up and was like, "Hey,
Invader Dan."
Yeah.
Okay.
The Invaders podcast. Go check it out. A wonderful listen. I think I called him up and was like, "Hey, did you buy this?" And he's like, "I did." So I gave them his like GameStop card number, and they looked it up and was like, "Oh, okay, you did buy it." And then I was able to get Days Gone for free. But it's like the hurdles I had to jump through. I'm giving you a closed video game. I want this closed video game in return.
Right.
Although then again, some people might be like, "Well, hey, that's probably why they're failing as a business and going bankrupt." So, Dave, do you have any other thoughts on anything?
Well, you can find me on the Scene Invaders podcast. Search Scene Invader. Everybody, please subscribe and like everything on the recaps, and put Pat's kid through college or middle school.
I don't even care if you like everything. For like the three people that are watching right now, as long as you just let the ads run, that's really the important thing here. Because I'm not going to be a normal YouTuber that just yells, "What's going on, guys? Click that bell button, like and subscribe." Like, I don't care if you hit the bell button ever. What I do care about is getting paid. All right? I'm not Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast would have had this thing looking like a professional outfit here. There wouldn't have been just a random whiteboard behind me. All right? Dave's camera would have been better. But what I'm just trying to pay my way here. Dave bought a mug. You can buy a mug. All right? I know someone who bought a shirt. You can buy a shirt. And I've got cool phrases on them. Like, I literally have a shirt that says, "I bought this to support a broke YouTuber." You could wear that. It's a factual shirt. Because I'm not Mr. Beast. I'm just Pat. So, Dave, thank you for the plug. Appreciate it. I got nothing else, man.
All right.
Let's go talk Oscars or something, but like it's late and I gotta finish Shadow and Bone and get on that because Netflix now drops stuff on Thursdays.
I know, never ends.
Like, what are we doing?
Hey, anytime you want me back, all you have to do is shoot a text, Venmo, whatever you need.
My phone just died, so can't shoot a text. Real quick before I do let you go, how excited are you for Ted Lasso?
Ted Lasso, listen, anybody who knows me, I am a miserable, angry son of a bee. And listen,
Yeah.
I know you, Pat, and you're an angry, miserable son of a bee.
Happy guy. You bought a mug.
Yeah. Well, happy guys are guys that watch Ted Lasso, and we all believe it's going to be good. It's going to be great. And we're going to bring joy to our otherwise miserable lives. And then it will end and we'll be going back to being miserable.
So I've watched the first.
You watched it.
I've watched the first 4 episodes, and
don't ruin my world.
That's all I got.
Mm.
Don't me. I watched the first 4 episodes. That was it. That's just a humble brag.
Oh, okay.
That's
I
it.
was about to say, like,
No,
yeah, you're not allowed to release anything yet, are you?
I don't think so. Apple's weird, man. Like, I don't even know if they have embargoes. Like, their whole setup. So, to take people behind the scenes, I go on the website that they use to like watch stuff early, and out of nowhere, my login doesn't work. And I sign into this thing like a few times a week, whether it be to watch things. And right now, I'm recapping Servant as it happens, and then Ted Lasso was coming up, so I was checking that. Like last Monday, I signed on, and it was like your account is deactivated. I was like, that's weird. I didn't do anything. So I email them, and normally the process of emailing any of these companies, whether it be HBO, Showtime, whatever, is like you email a person. At Apple, you just email a random email address that's very generic, and then the person gets back to you, and they don't have a signature. I had no idea who I was emailing, and it took a week for them to figure out and put my account back up. And in that week, they messed it up because instead of giving me Servant, they gave me Severance. So I'm now trying to get it's but the important part is they gave me Ted Lasso. Yeah, it's just a feel good show. It's a feel good show, and it's ending this season, which sucks. But I understand why they don't want to. It's becoming a trend of shows ending after 4 seasons, and this is one of them. So, Dave, thanks. I'm gonna hang up now. This was fun.
Thank you, Pat. Have a great one.
Goodbye.